Hey team, welcome back to another episode of Shift Notes. Thank you again for tuning in on our bi-weekly mentorship boomerang. This week is a bit of a special episode, especially for myself, but for also Mikey and Laurie. This person that we have on is an amazing human being. I was quite lucky to work with her briefly in Wellington, and was one of the driving forces as to why I wanted to move to Canada. She's got an amazing heart, really stamped her presence in the Wellington hospitality scene, and now is an amazing mother and still continues to do amazing things for the hospitality industry. Her name's Amy Alexander, one of my best friends, and hopefully today you'll get to meet and get to know a little bit about her and what she's done and how she got to where she is now. And Amy.
Welcome.
Thanks, guys. Wow, that was an intro. Thanks, James.
I felt my heart
almost cried. Yeah. Don't start off in tears.
Yeah. Try not to. That's topic three.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Topic 3 is all about crying.
Yeah, good. Okay, I'll get the tissues.
That's when the baby photos come out, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're super stoked to have you, Amy. And yeah, just really looking forward to the interview and just kind of getting more people to know who you are and what you've been up to, and seeing, a little bit more about the Wellington scene. And to G's comment, also really quickly want to acknowledge the fact that we've just we're moving to the bi-weekly interviews for a little bit, just while we kind of get on top of our lives. Where G's opened up a business, Mikey's about to launch a business. I've been studying for wine exams. It's just been crazy. So, but we're stoked to be here with you, Amy, today.
Yeah, thanks heaps, guys.
Man, yeah, I mean, it's awesome. We've read so much about your bio, and I think we've crossed paths like literally at less than a handful of times. So
I know, it's crazy.
It's really cool to be able to chat with you about so many things in the industry that are like they're different things to what we've covered so far. So it's really nice to see. But I guess we should probably dig into it, right?
Yeah. Let's go.
So first and foremost, we kind of want to know a little bit more about you. So where and I guess when did you start your Hospo career?
Well, I'm not sure it was a career move at 15, but I started working in Hospo when I was 15 in Canada on Vancouver Island. And I actually started working at a little pizza place called Little Caesars. And I look back on that, and like I worked there with my best friend, and I think about like the owner leaving us to close that pizza shop, and I was like, that's bananas. Like, who leaves two 15-year-olds to shut the shop up? But hey, I guess that's where it all started. And we only flooded.
Normal thing. That's a normal thing. I worked in a pizza shop when I was 15, and I was left as the manager for some ridiculous reason.
It's crazy, right? Like, here's the keys to my business. So yeah. And I mean, like, we did flood it once. But other than that, it was relatively uneventful. And so that was sort of my first intro to Hospo. And then I graduated from high school. I decided that I wanted to go live in Calgary. So those of you who know Canada would be like, why would you move there? It's so cold. And it is. I decided there I was going to start working at a sort of sports bar. And also I worked in retail there while I was going to uni. And after I sort of had a couple of semesters there, and then Calgary just wasn't really home anymore. And I decided to move back to the island. So moved back to Vancouver Island, got a job at a pizza sort of diner. There's a lot of, for anyone who's been to America and Canada, there's a lot of those sort of like mid-range chain restaurants. And a lot of the smaller towns, those are sort of your options, especially like at that time. I'm not going to tell you the year because then I'll just age myself. But at that time, there wasn't a huge opportunity for like these really interesting owner-operator places. So you sort of had these run-of-the-mill opportunities. But that being said, in those places, there's so many systems in place, and there's actually a lot you can take from them. So I worked there for a little while. And then, of course, I got itchy feet. I decided it was time to go back to uni again. And I went to uni and studied business and hospitality. And during that time, there's a part of the program that you need to take a placement on. And so there's all these lists of all these places that you should go. And I was like, I want to move to Whistler. And everyone was like, okay, you really want to go work in Whistler? And I'm like, yeah, I don't care where I get a placement. I just want to live in Whistler. Very, typical sort of early 20s. And I ended up applying for placements at the Four Seasons, which was a newly opened hotel up there. Thinking, it's kind of a long shot, but when I looked into what the Four Seasons was, it was beautiful. It was, very luxe, something completely different to what I had experienced. And I ended up getting the job, which was really cool. So I moved up there. I took the placement for what was supposed to be summer. At the end of the sort of 3 months, the GM at the time came up to me and said, hey, I don't want to sort of deter you from going back to university, but also there's an opportunity for you here, and we can show you everything that you will potentially learn. And so I was like, sweet, I don't have to go back to uni. Yes. And so I stayed on. And after sort of working in the restaurant there, I was like the maitre d' or the hostess. They promoted me to become like the designated trainer, which meant that I was responsible for all the induction of the new team, and actually making sure everyone was comfortable. They were essentially my shadow. So every single person that started, I got to train in the restaurant, and then they would move from like that host and maitre d' position to understand just the flow and things like that. And then on potentially into a serving position or a bar back position, whatever the case may be. After doing that for about just under a year, I really wanted to learn more about wine. I wanted to learn more about spirits and cocktails. So I requested a transfer into the cocktail bar there. And I was given the opportunity to be a server in the lounge there. And I remember my first day, I was so nervous. What if someone asked me something I don't know? It turns out there's a lot of things I still don't know, but that's fine. And I worked in there for about 6 months, learned a ton, had some really incredible bartenders there who sort of explained to me, I was so new. I didn't know what I knew what maybe a Negroni was, but couldn't tell you what was in a Manhattan, and I couldn't tell you about champagne. And so I really just tried to soak that all up, because they have such good training programs there and such good access to information, that I figured, I might not get this opportunity again in a place like this. And so I'm just really going to go for it. And then I decided I would move to New Zealand. So I came to New Zealand in 2006 on a year working holiday. Clearly I've overstayed. And I moved to New Plymouth, of all places. But I actually met a New Zealander in Whistler, and we lived together. So that was sort of the tie, and she was from Taranaki. So I got off the plane in Auckland. She came to get me, got to New Plymouth. It was summer. It was super beautiful, like the beaches and the mountains. And then I got a job at a place called Salt, which at the time was part of the Waterfront Hotel, which I now think maybe like Millennium or one of those hotels own it now, but it's right on the waterfront, right by the big wind wand in New Plymouth. And I remember going in there and being like, oh yeah, this looks like a cool place to work, and applying. And like, I got hired pretty much like in, sort of a matter of hours. I got a phone call and had an interview and had the job. And that was really great. And I think they just sort of saw like, oh, maybe potentially she could add some value from her hotel background. And yeah, it was really good. It was really fun, really cool crew. I was never going to be there long term, so I was pretty upfront about that. And then winter came, and I wasn't super keen on the winter. So I decided that I would take off for a couple months to explore Asia and parts of India. And then after I came back from that, I came back to New Zealand again. and decided I've got a few more months left on my working holiday. I'm going to go down to Wellington and see what that's all about. I know they have a really cool hospitality scene. Well, so I had heard. And so I moved to Wellington. And at the time, part of the driver for that was some people that I had worked with again in Whistler were actually opening a restaurant down here. They called me and said, hey, do you want to come and we're opening, we need some help, someone that can kind of just step in and, do whatever. So I sort of thought, oh, awesome, I'll come down and I'll waitress and I'll do dishes. I don't really care. It's a couple months. And if I can help her out, that's awesome. But that actually turned into a far more bigger job once I got down there. And then they ended up sponsoring me to stay. So stuck it out for another year or so. And at that time, my partner had finished his degree. So he had been studying at Vic. And we decided that Winter Olympics were coming to Whistler. He had always wanted to go to Canada. He hadn't kind of done his travel yet because he had been studying. And so we decided to pack everything up and move back to Canada. And we moved to Whistler in 2009. I took a job at a place called The Mix, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore. And it was crazy. It was just, Whistler's wild. It's a wild place. And The Mix was this sort of cocktails, tapas lounge, where all the locals went, Sunday DJs, and the kitchen was open 19 hours a day. And I don't mean with breads and dips. It was you could get a steak at 2 a.m. And so it was just where everyone Hospo went. You'd finish your shift and it didn't matter what time, you don't eat dinner at 5 o'clock. So, you might eat dinner at 1 a.m. And so it was really cool to sort of walk into that kind of family right away. And then after the Olympics were over, Phil, who's my husband now, but at the time partner, his visa was due to expire. And so we packed everything back up and moved back to Wellington, where I did some work at, it used to be called Hooch, which is now CGR, with Johnny and Justin. And then I helped out a little bit at the Roxy, just to help sort of open that up with them. And then I really wanted a break. I was tired of late nights. I was just feeling a little bit burnt out. So I went into events. Don't know why I thought that would be a break. And I moved into event management with a company called Verve. I traveled sort of all over New Zealand with them, large scale public events, big gala dinners, you name it. I used to be shutting roads down on long weekends in high vis. And then the next weekend I would be at the Langham in black tie. So it was a really, really cool, experience and lots of different events that we did. And then I got a phone call from Pernod, and they got in touch with me. Obviously, someone had given them my number. They were looking for a new on-premise rep in Welly. And I was actually quite happy in the role I was doing. But they sort of pitched it to me like an offer I couldn't refuse. And so I went to move and I took the role with Pernod after almost 2 years with the event company. 4 years in on-premise, awesome, so much fun. And after that, I decided that it was, again, time for a change. Moved to a company called POSBOSS, which is a hospitality software company. Totally different, really challenging, different industry, same sort of skills, but very different. And then during that time, I started our cocktail business and drinks catering, which is JMR Cocktail & Co. So bottled cocktails and drinks catering, and that is what I'm currently doing now.
Oh,
it's amazing.
yeah.
kind of extensive. It's relatively large. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the big things I wanted to ask, you've actually covered a lot of what we were going to ask about. I guess probably one of the things is, how did you find your welcome into New Zealand? Obviously, you've been backwards and forwards quite a lot, and there's quite a, well, I feel like from working in Canada and probably G as well, there's quite a lot of similarities. But did you find that there's similarities between how different they are, but also there's a few little bits same with regards to hospitality?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, same. I feel like it would probably be like global. I would hope so. That I think in hospitality, you're always an extended family. And sort of as cliche as that sounds, it's true. Like you sort of collect all these different people, and they all have a shared passion of something. And in terms of like the service style and that sort of thing, I think in New Zealand, it's probably a little bit more relaxed. I think in Canada, it's a little bit more sort of maybe tailored and structured, because the tipping culture there. But I definitely think the general tone of hospitality are really similar between New Zealand and Canada. I think people want you to have a good time when you're out. I think there's an incredibly high level of knowledge with booze, with food. We both have access to great ingredients. We both have a lot of creative people as well. So I think that there's also a work ethic too, that's similar, and that same kind of can-do attitude is what I definitely found.
Yeah, awesome. I think actually in a previous interview we had Tim Etherington judge, and he likened Kiwis, Canadians, and Scottish into like almost the same basket, because we all have that kind of. I feel like what I've seen, and probably what you've seen as well, is like there's a certain, you've got to get it done attitude, and it's kind of like there's like this little humble piece, but also like we're always the underdog. So
yeah, exactly. Just like that backbone, like that constant sort of like, okay, I'm just going to get it done. I don't care if it's like, having to do the dishes this week or whatever. It's just, let's just get through it. And then let's all have a beer at the end of the shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of like, that's my job, that's your job. It's much more, exactly that. Let's just all get through this. And it's a tough day or whatever the case may be. But it is just about kind of, hammering it out and celebrating at the end for sure.
It's everybody's job.
Big time. Yeah. You're not too good to clean that rubbish bin out or pick gum out at the bottom of the tables.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, how
did you know that that's what I did in Canada? How did you know that that's...
Because I did that.
I was a busser on the mountain.
With your little scraper.
Yeah. The rendezvous was full of gum. It was disgusting.
I'm sorry about your experience in Whistler.
It was amazing.
Well, on that topic of picking gum and taking out rubbish, I'm going to chat to you a little bit about corporate today and moving to that.
I didn't do much of that at Pernod,
yeah. Different vibe.
Different vibes, yeah.
So I guess like one of the cool, you've had such a varied career, and you've got so many different like areas of hospitality and things and industries and kind of companies related to hospitality or adjacent to hospital. And so like, I think it'd be really cool to give people an insight into, maybe what it would take to move into the corporate space. So I think you might be able to offer a lot of wisdom here for any bartenders or, front of house staff who might want to make that next career step. So what was like, how did you find switching to corporate? Like, was there any big challenges that you like were surprised by, or things that you wish you had known at the start?
Switching to corporate was like really good, and then some things like, probably not so good. But I think like my advice, just straight up is it's not, all company credit cards and company cars and, that's the like life that you see on Instagram, because, that is the fun part of your job, right? I'm not going to show on Instagram, like all my admin. That's pretty boring.
All
So like, you know, yeah, on your stories, like you're always drinking champagne or you're up in a chopper, but they don't see that you're actually like sitting there, you know, getting hammered on sales targets and like that sort of thing. So I think it's just around, if you're moving to corporate, I think it's not I think there's a lot of great opportunities, but be prepared for that side of it. It's not just a free ride. Those companies are large businesses, and the more that you can kind of prove that you have some commercial knowledge, as well as those skills that you have from working in restaurants, bars, etc., that's sort of that perfect package. You have the experience of on the line, you have experience in relationships, but you do have to understand that they're a business, and you know, sort of knowing people and a lot of handshakes are only going to get you so far. There's a lot of systems and processes in a corporate environment. I actually quite like an aspect of that, but if you are a person that's not sort of the way you operate and think, you'll probably struggle. The sooner though that if you can adapt to that, the more that you'll actually achieve. I think if you fight those things, you're just fighting something that's never going to change. That's a corporation. That's how they operate. They have to. And there's a lot of things that you can learn though. You know, I look back, working at Pernod with such fond memories. You get to work with incredible brands. You get to work on activations with insane budgets. The people that you meet, the teams that you meet, the knowledge that you have access to, is, you know, second to none. And I think as long as you are prepared to, you know, sort of adhere by those standards, and as well, you can have your cake and eat it too. So you can have fun and you can, you know, do all those great things that you get to do in the industry. But definitely you still need to be at the office at 8 a.m. So, you know, it's balance. And, you know, I remember when I first started, I was like, yeah, I can totally still go out till 4 o'clock every morning and rock up at work at 9. And I was like, after like 3 months, I looked like I was dead. And I was like, okay, it's probably not like the best balanced lifestyle here. I'm going to need to adjust what I'm up to. But, you know, I think that there's a lot of career opportunity as well within those corporate companies. So there's a lot of growth options. There's a lot of different roles that you could move into. So you could start as, you know, a sales rep, or you could start as an ambassador, and you can move into a much broader spectrum. And also there's opportunity to move globally. So yeah.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, like the timing thing, like the, like you say, like the waking up at 8 a.m. and showing up, like I think that's the big thing for anyone moving from hospo to corporate. It's like, well, you're just like gonna have to make sure your place is on time and like you're getting shit done, because it doesn't fly otherwise. And
it doesn't stop, right?
Yeah. You have to learn how to manage a calendar and just like it's hectic. But would you have any advice for anyone who wants to apply to corporate? Anyone?
I mean, I think like I would do it, you know. I think even if you're there and if you do apply to corporate and you decide that that's what you want to do, don't give up after 6 months, you know, spend at least 12. It's going to take you 6 months to get to know a business that size, to get comfortable, turn up and again, like show that you have these skills of, you know, your bartending, let's say, you have this incredible bartending skill. That's wonderful, but also show them that you can manage a diary, that you are prepared to show up at 8 a.m. And reach out to other people in the industry, like yourself as well, you know, who have gone through that switch, and ask for maybe advice on, what they can do. You see a lot of people, they feel like it's a natural reaction, I guess. Like, you know, I don't want to work nights anymore. I'm going to be a rep. And I just think like you have to also be prepared to be in your car a lot.
I don't think it's everybody's cup of tea either. I feel like you just said, it's the natural progression. I feel like there's not a lot of those roles in New Zealand as it is. And a lot of people kind of, oh yeah, I want to become a brand ambassador, but the brand ambassador piece is so different from company to company, and it is, it's
country to country
completely
as well.
different to every country too, right?
Yeah.
And it takes a while to get, you feel like you're just, I don't know, treading water for the first year, maybe. So it's challenging.
Big time.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's why I would say to anyone, like, if you're going to do it, but suck it up, and, you know, like, and don't give up after 3 months. Cause I remember being like, oh my gosh, like, did I really make the right call? Is this for me? You know, do I actually even like selling to people? Like, you know, and then when you realize, like, actually I can learn so much here, and I really love a lot of this portfolio, and actually, like, if I think about the bigger picture, it's an incredible opportunity. So I would say go for it, but don't feel like you have to be pigeonholed into a rep or brand ambassador job. There's lots of other things that you can do. You know, you could move into maybe helping around a marketing team or activation, things like that. Potentially look at customer service roles, and it gets you your foot in the door in those companies. And then if something comes up that might be a little bit more up your alley, you can then apply for it.
Cool. Great insights.
Nice. Thank you for that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly take over here. Topic 3, get prepared for the waterworks. Your current state. So I've been quite lucky now, meet your little baby, but also standing alongside you, bottling some drinks. Do you want to maybe touch on a little bit on your company, JMR Cocktails?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for all the bottling help. Founded the cocktail company in 2017, and sort of started as like a, you know, that standard side hustle, side project where was working with Pause Bless at the time, but couldn't really get out of the scene just yet. And saw a need for it, saw kind of a big gap in the market after working with a lot of hotels and events where they have clientele who want that sort of thing, but not necessarily staff who are comfortable delivering it. And I've worked on that sort of on the side for 2017, 2018. Finally in 2019, decided that I was ready to go. I was sort of ready to quit my real job, I called it, and move into the cocktail business full time. And then moved into that in, I guess it would have been March 2019, and decided that it was time really to kind of put my foot down, and start sort of hitting the gas and trying to see if it had more legs. We started really slow, and now we're sort of at a point where our stockists are climbing, and it's going quite well. So it's good. And through that, obviously, like you said, Jay, pregnant, had a baby, 2020 hit. So, you know, it's been busy.
Yeah.
Yes,
busy.
Mikey.
It's been a hectic year.
yeah, definitely for everyone. That's awesome. You know, it's great to kind of see that you kind of took an opportunity where there was a little gap in the market, and now it's been years ongoing, and it's kind of built this sort of platform for more people to kind of be like, I've thought of this idea as well. I want to start this business. Do you have any like advice for anyone trying to grow or start a new business?
Gosh, yeah. Looking back now, I wish I had taken some of this as well. But hindsight, ask for help. Like, don't do it all by yourself. I think, you know, I look back and I think, like, gosh, I wish I had just spoken to some people about those small things early on. Ask for help from, you know, maybe mentors or people, your peer group, and have a really clear plan of what you want to achieve. With that plan, that obviously can change. Things evolve, pandemics happen. But I think if you kind of stick to the core of like why you're doing something, and remember why you started that, that's a really, really important thing. And with the starting a new business, yeah, again, I just can't sort of like harp on about it more, but do get help from people. You know, I'm not a professional in packaging. I'm not a professional in distribution. I'm not a professional in logistics and couriers, but those are all those things that, you know, you come up with an idea and you're like, cool, I'm going to put Negronis in bottles. And then that spawns this entire other you know, sort of ripple effect. And so find people who can help you with those things that you aren't necessarily versed in, building websites, you know, marketing or social media, stuff like that. Because what happens, like I'm a prime example, you know, I spend 3 whole days trying to build a website where it's like, you know, just ask someone to help you. They'd probably quite happily help you. And it's that sort of thing. So yeah, moving forward, I'm taking my own advice, guys. But for anyone starting now, start asking now.
It's probably that Kiwi can-do mentality as well.
Totally.
Like, I'll just get it done.
So
And
much.
we all do it, and then we're like, well, I don't know.
I was like, I'm sure these Squarespace tutorials will be super chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's surround yourself by people that are better than you at stuff like that. You know, specifically the website pieces, and then like Shopify has been one for me lately. And you're just like, man, somebody could do this in 5 minutes. But
Exactly.
I want to learn it, but also it's hectic.
Exactly. And that's it. You know, you start to sort of question, like, is my time well spent setting up Shopify for 2 days? Or like, should I just get someone to give me a quick overview, and then they can actually, like, they're professionals in that. That's what they do. So yeah, I would make a list of those things, and then I would probably ask for more help.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Outsource.
Great advice.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to some life balance and future balance. I hope you've got. I feel like all of us need some help with life balance at the moment.
Help us.
Yeah. You've worked in so many roles, so many different roles, and gone through so many like major events, I guess. Like, what's helped you to keep some form of life balance? I mean, I'm not saying that we all do keep great, but like, is there something that's helped you keep a balance?
Yeah. Like, again, this has been learned over years. This isn't like something like that, you know, yesterday I just started mastering. This has been years in the making, but it's actually like stopping and saying no. And so that's actually allowed me to free some time up. And in particular, now I have less time than I ever have in my whole life. And I think now that time that I actually take out for myself or for, you know, my friends, my family, is crucial to me succeeding in my career. And I think, like, it can be as simple as like going outside for 20 minutes, but actively making yourself do those things have been able to, probably support a lot of my crazy decisions and different choices. Balance is a work in progress.
Yeah, totally. And I think like there's something to be said about that 20-minute thing as well, because oftentimes I do this as well. I'll be like, I'll just keep working because I need to get things done. But then it's like, actually, sometimes you can just work more efficiently and better if you actually just take that break. Yeah.
Turn your phone off, you know, 10 minutes, turn your phone off. And it like, sometimes that for me is just like a mental thing. Like, it means nobody can get a hold of me, even though no one probably is trying to, but it's like, it just means that it's just not an option. So
Awesome. Well, the next question we kind of want to ask you on that whole like life balance thing is, well, actually, the whole year has been super challenging for a lot of people, right? And it's even now we're dealing with so much uncertainty still, and there's just so much pressure from all of this uncertainty. So kind of one of the things that we wanted to do when we first started this podcast was to also get people to see who the great people of our industry are, who like the kind of mentors and the leaders are, like such as yourself. You know, you've gone on to do all these amazing things, but also learn from those people about how to handle some of the challenges in life, and maybe have some examples. So like, do you have any stories about some of the biggest challenges you think you've faced within your career, and maybe how you've gotten through those?
I actually like, this is a tricky one. So there's been like a few bumps in the road, like personal and work wise. But from a work perspective, I actually think one of the biggest challenges for me has always been what do I do with these skills? Where do I go next? And that's probably why there's been like such a varied sort of roles within my work. And for me, it was about challenging myself. So I knew that I could stay working in a restaurant. Like I really love that. I love that. But what am I going to learn? Eventually I'm going to burn out. And so I think for me, it was really around taking risks, and taking those sort of challenging roles where I felt super out of my comfort zone. And from that, actually learning and moving ahead, and exploring other options that you can do with hospitality. And yeah,
totally. And that's kind of what we want to show people as well. Like there's so many more options than what people think there are.
Yeah.
Like just don't just think in the box. There's so many adjacent industries, like the bottling cocktail company that you're working for right now, and then Hospo and all these other areas where you can put your skill sets.
Yeah.
Are there like any, from hospitality, like from an industry perspective, would you say there are any kind of key skills that people in hospitality develop that they could take forward to future employers and say, like, what do you think people develop in the industry?
I think you develop every skill that you possibly need to live your life in hospitality. Actually, maybe don't be a surgeon, but like, just, like, hi, I've got 20 years hospital experience. I'm doing your heart surgery today. But
I know how to cut a lime. So does that help?
We good. But I like, there is time management, there's people management, there is understanding how to work with different people, understanding how to work in a team, there's budget management, there's costings. These are huge skills that I think when you work in hospitality, you just sort of, that's your everyday. So you don't actually take that as something that you should really champion when you're going to write like a CV. And I think that those skills are transferable in so many different industries, whether it be, something around marketing, or whether it be, software, or through events, or if you wanted to get into something around recruitment. Those are all skills and different industries outside of hospitality that could set you up for that. You don't have to become an owner or an operator. You don't have to start a company. You don't have to move into being a sales rep. There's a lot of other options that those skills set you up for. There's skills that you'll have for your life. They teach you how to think on your feet. They teach you conflict management. They genuinely, I think anyone that has done hospitality for a serious amount of their life, you are making the world a better place because you really know how to deal with people.
Yeah, and almost grit as well. Like you have to develop grit to handle the
big
long
time
hours.
And like you need to be able to do it with like a little bit of grace, right? Like it's like, okay, deep breath. Like I don't need to be nice to table 4, but I need to be agreeable, And I think there's like a certain person that can kind of make someone feel really comfortable. And I think when you can do that in hospitality, you might naturally have it. And some people maybe don't, but you can still learn all those other sort of skills along it.
And relationships are so important in any industry you do, right? So if you know how to work with people, how to build great relationships, that's going to help you in everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those ones in hospitality where like even the creative side of things, you can go on to do so many things. Like it opens you up to so many different industries, which is pretty amazing.
Totally. You can, like, the thing is, like, if you think like, okay, I'm really passionate about a particular brand, and so I'm going to start to get into like maybe marketing that brand, but it's like that skill set isn't about the brand, it's about the skills that you need to make that sort of jump off. So I think people just need to think about like, okay, hang on a minute, just because like I was a really great maitre d', so maybe I should now look at this. But you could work in anywhere that you're managing people.
Yeah, like I guess a big example is photography. You got so many bartenders have gone on now to be like amazing photographers, and they just started by taking photos of drinks and food, and now they've gone on to like take photos of Mount Rupehu or like that's pretty
Hero,
impressive. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I mean, the next question is something that we'd like to ask everyone, just to kind of see their sort of like personal views on how the industry is going and how they're kind of moving forward. What would you like to see change in the industry, if there is anything?
In New Zealand, I wish that like hospitality was seen as more of sort of a career for a lot of people. I sometimes feel like a lot of people do it because they're going to uni or whatever the case may be, which is actually like why I sort of started, besides my sweet pizza job. But I think that, you know, if people can really elevate that and learn from other people, I just think it's a shame to see a lot of these bartenders or, you know, waiters, waitresses, hostesses do this incredible job, really, really become sort of the master of it. And then they hit that ceiling and think, okay, well, now what? And they end up moving into something else. And if they're happy moving into something else, that's amazing. That's incredible. But I just feel like there's not enough obvious opportunities for people to jump into the next step.
I guess, yeah, in the last few years, you've definitely seen it turn on people where they've like, I'm going to go make beer now, or I'm going to go make some wine, or go and, you know, work in this winery, which I think is pretty amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I know that's obviously like easier said than done. But I do think that, like in Canada, for example, you know, there's career servers and career bartenders because the tipping culture and the cash, you know, like it's insane. Why would you ever do? Why would you move when you get to work in this awesome pub and just take home pockets full of cash and you make as much money as, you know, professionals. And so I just wish in New Zealand, I don't know if like tipping's the right thing, or I don't know how to solve it. But I do wish that it was just a more sort of career opportunity for people.
Well, I guess it kind of stems from the top, right? And once you get that seal of approval from the higher up people, the government, whether it may be the government, where they really will acknowledge hospitality as a career, then that's when most people will turn around and be like, oh, cool. So I'll start washing plates and then I'll become the head chef. You know, it's like those little stepping stones. Obviously, you have to work towards to get there. But yeah, when you were studying hospitality management, did you find that some people had this mentality where they would do the course and then when they finished, they would get like a manager's role?
Yeah, 100%.
Because I had that as well.
I'm going to study this. I'm going to get my diploma or my degree, and then I'm going to be the boss of the Four Seasons Hotel.
Exactly. I just always had that. I was like, man, like I can almost guarantee that a hotel will probably hire someone that's been working full time for the last 4 years, as opposed to someone that's just finished their degree and worked part time.
Yeah, which is why I ended up choosing to stay and take the hands-on experience, because I was like, hang on a minute, I'm going to pay to do this essentially, or I can be paid to do it. Yeah.
For sure.
That's interesting with the whole hospitality management kind of, I guess, studying that, because I guess maybe probably one of the best ways to get into hospital is to really just apply and get, you know, start from the bottom and learn how to polish a glass or
I polished a lot of glasses.
So much harder.
It's on the job training, right? Like that's the main, that's what it's built on. It's the same when we have young bartenders, dare I say it, from hospitality schools that come along and same kind of thing. They expect to be thrown straight on the bar as a bartender. They have zero experience. So it's kind of like, well, where do we start this? Because you could do that, but then how do you understand how the space works? And it's kind of I think that tough, probably alludes to this whole, I think that also kind of ties back into this whole like hospitality's like, it needs to start becoming understood as a real job. Because it's often kind of,
I think definitely like people are more and more, as our kind of restaurants and bars are really elevating around the country, right? And there's like, we're getting more and more people coming back from overseas, opening things up. And I think people are across the board starting to really see like the craft and the effort that goes into it. But I mean, there's still a long way to go, but our hospitality industry is just continually elevating, which is cool.
Yeah, I agree. And it's changed a lot, like that when I first got here a while ago, 2006, it's changed a lot in those sort of 14 years, and just like you said, and I mean, maybe like, I don't want to say the positive thing of COVID because there's nothing really positive about it, is there? But is that people are coming back to New Zealand, and they're sharing, Gianne, you're a great example, sharing your expertise of what you've learned overseas and actually bringing that back into Wellington. So yeah, it's cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Hey,
More tears.
I got a little yeah, no tears. Any tears? Come on, man. It's a little one. What about that bottom lip, G?
Yeah.
On that nutshell, what's been getting you through this challenging year?
Yeah, as like cliche as it sounds, my daughter, she's awesome. She's so cool. Yeah, like I also think like not only is she incredible, but man, there's something grounding about having a baby, because they don't care that there's a raging pandemic globally. Like, it's 2 a.m., mom, feed me, So it really, really puts things into perspective for me. And it really made me realize, I mean, of course I knew what was important, but it really, really hammers that home. And yeah, I think like, I feel really sort of grateful that I was in New Zealand for the majority of this year. I feel grateful that I have, Aria, because it is tough, separated from my family. They're in Canada and we can't see each other. And then there's also, business tanked for a while. We lost all of our events and all of our catering gigs, but those are coming back online now. So I think, she's probably been like a major driving force for me to keep everything going and keep that business going and not just throw in the towel when it got tough. And yeah, she's awesome.
I think when you come home at the end of the day, nothing that's happened actually matters.
No.
When you see, like, it's the same with Lockie for me. It's like, no, it puts it all into perspective, whether it's a smile or it's a cry. Like that's now the most important part of my life.
Because it is irrelevant how your day was to them.
Yeah, they don't know and they don't care. Yeah,
I'm just ready for
like,
dinner.
Yeah, it's quite soothing. It's quite nice because it's like a. I'm not gonna say. But I was gonna say it's kind of like an animal. When an animal cheers you up like a dog, and then it's like they can see that you're not massively happy.
Yeah.
But babies are like the opposite because they haven't thought about it yet.
Don't care at all. Yeah. But I think again, it's just that perspective of, and you're bang on. You walk in that door and, you might have had the worst day or you might have had the best day, but they don't care. They're just like, mom. And it's keeps it really simple,
Yeah, definitely.
Amazing.
Well, I can't speak for it being simple, but I'm sure you've managed to figure something out by now.
Maybe.
So obviously kind of tailing on from how you're getting through a challenging year. Do you have any advice that you would pass on to anyone in hospitality that's kind of having a bit of a challenging year, kind of struggling through, but still ticking on?
Yeah, I think just, I mean, if you're in New Zealand, we're in a really good place. We're, really almost back to normal, dare I say it out loud. But that doesn't mean that these last sort of 9-10 months haven't been horrific. Again, I think just reach out to your friends and your family. If you're working in hospitality and, you're feeling super flat, maybe your hours have been cut, whatever the case may be. Well, this might be an opportunity to start looking at how you can transfer your skills, or to start a new project, something, you know, like what you guys have done with this, or what you've done with Yaki Soda. I think it's just a time that you can take it, reflect. This is the world now for the who knows how long. And I think that as hard as that is to sort of get your head around, the sooner that you can sort of accept that, the better. And you can start actually making some plans around things that are going to make you happy and things that are going to improve your life. If you're an owner operator, it's tough. You know, maybe start looking at some different ways to bring in some revenue if you're not getting any more bums on seats. You know, talk to other people, talk to your neighbors, really lean on those people that are going through it, because everyone's going through a challenging time regardless of their situation. So I think just, really lean on one another. And if you have that spare time because you're not working as much, maybe start focusing on something you've always wanted to do, a new hobby. You know, maybe you wanted to learn how to do photography, for example. Well, now's a great opportunity. And just think simple, I think, you know, keep it simple. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. And just really kind of dig into what's important to you and go for it.
So much perspective. Maybe. So much wisdom.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was great words. I think they resonate with everyone here for sure.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
Definitely.
Or get a dog, you know?
Yeah,
I've got one of those too, Mikey. He's nuts.
Yeah, definitely like the whole thinking, use your spare time to start a podcast and you won't have any more spare time.
Yeah, there you go. I'm busy again.
Yeah. Not a suitable situation.
But I mean, do you guys have any last questions for Amy today?
I think you've nailed it. Like genuinely, we've literally covered everything. It's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Cool.
I feel like we could chat for hours, but
really cool to hear about your career, how varied it's been, and get some really cool wisdoms from you. Oh, we've got one more.
I just had one question.
Hold the phone.
Sorry. You worked in Whistler, and during the Winter Olympics, like that's something that, like, I'm sure, Mikey, you might have worked during the Rugby World Cup here in New Zealand, and Laurie as well. But the Winter Olympics, that's like a completely different ballgame, right? You got so many people from around the world that come in specific for that. Like, what was that like?
It was nuts, eh? Like, it was so crazy. It was like, I'll look back on that and I'm so stoked I went back home for that. It was so busy. It was like a lineup at the door, from open till close, just weeks on weeks on weeks. Met so many cool people, and felt like really, really proud to be Canadian. I probably hadn't really felt like too patriotic before, but I felt really like happy to be hosting these people and showing them a little bit of our country, and like and you know, sort of my situation, like our food and beverage. It was challenging as well, like just really boring stuff, but like logistics. No one was allowed to come in and out of Whistler unless you were on like an allocated Olympic bus or you lived there pretty much. So like deliveries were being delivered between, you know, midnight and 3 a.m. So it was just like everything that you thought was going to be a challenge plus a million other things. So it was really cool though. I had an incredible team to work with. We smashed it out of the park. We had made my owner a bet that, you know, if we could hit a certain wage percentage during the Olympics, he'd all have to take us to Las Vegas. And, you know, I remember like furiously checking every 10 minutes, like, what are we at? And, we ended up totally winning, which was great. And he flew us all to Las Vegas for 5 days. So it was amazing. Like, it was crazy, you know, like it's kind of the stories that you hear and you're like, that's never going to happen to me. And it did, I was actually back in New Zealand and he called me and said, I'm going into a meeting, Amy, but here's my credit card number, book yourself flights. And
oh my God.
Oh my God, are you serious? And he was like, I gotta go, here's the credit card. And so he flew me from New Zealand to meet the team in Vegas. Like it was crazy. But the Olympics were the village was like, the vibe in there and the energy was, I mean, I don't think it will ever be like that again. Just the hype and everyone was happy, like I imagine maybe during Rugby World Cup, everyone is just stoked to be out. They're stoked to be exploring this country. People were like so excited to tell us about their day, like I held gold medals, I held silver medals. Like, I'll never forget watching that hockey game where we beat America. And we got that gold medal, and the whole village just like erupted into this insane party, everyone out. And if you've been to Whistler, like there's sort of this main walkway down to the center where like Cheetah and stuff is, and that was just packed, like people screaming and yelling and crying and Caesar's going everywhere. But it was awesome. A really cool experience.
You truly love the sport, right? They truly love hockey. It's insane. I was lucky enough to be in Vancouver when the Canucks got through to the finals for the Western Conference. Yeah. And like the whole Bramble Street was just like one massive party. Everybody,
bananas,
thousands of people high-fiving each other. It was just insane. Like,
yeah, it's so cool. So the Olympics I'm really glad I went back for that. I'm really also glad it was a short period of time. Because you just can't continue on like that for months on end. But we all just agreed not going to hire anyone out. We're just going to give everyone 60, 70 hours and we're going to smash it out. And that's what we did.
That sounds amazing and incredible. And what an experience.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, Amy. Well, we're going to kind of wrap it up now, but thank you for taking an hour out of your day. We know you're super busy running this company, being a mom. So we really appreciate all the time you've spent with us today and all the wisdoms you've shared as well. Really stoked to have you. We think you're awesome. And basically, if anyone else who's listening out there enjoyed this podcast, let us know. What is it? Hit the like button.
Swipe up. Subscribe here.
Yeah. Let us know you're listening and you're into it, because we love to hear from everyone. But super stoked, and thank you so much.
Try some of the cocktails.
Thank you guys so much. Get yourself some Negronis. No, thank you guys so much. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks, pal.
Amazing.
Bye.
Bye.